If you didn't catch it on Wednesday, week 1 of the caster debuted, and it was an absolute blast to watch, and it's going to be continuing to go on each and every week. We are already casters, though, Tolly. You don't have to worry. You don't have to wait until the end of the show to find out. I can tell you right now, you're a caster.
You know, I'm not worried about the $10,000 that they're all going to win.
You aren't, because I am.
All I want is those 10,000 gems that hi-rez gives me every week.
That's true. You get 10,000? All right, I'm going to just make a note. I don't have a pen. I need to call my agent. Let's take a look at the standings. Thank you, Tolly. I'll get that in a minute. Let's take a look at the standings and see what we have through the first half of the first day of the fall split of Season 4. Obey, they found 3 points in their matchup up against the Poppies. We just watched a split between Valence and Energy. Those two teams, as the casters mentioned, split during the summer split. Valence is one of those rosters that you can really never count out no matter who they're playing against.
They're very hungry right now, obviously. They were performing relatively well towards the end of the summer split, picking up the pace. And we've been known to see Energy stagger up a little bit towards the beginning of splits.
That's true. Sometimes it takes them a little bit to get going, and now with the new member for the first time and who knows how long, could take them a little bit of extra time, as you mentioned. Let's take a look at the schedule and see what we have the rest of the day. As I mentioned, we're halfway through. The back half is going to be a good one. Elevate and Burrito is going to be our next matchup. And then to close out the day, Dignitas versus Rival. Certainly two of the best teams, not only in Europe, but in the world right now.
That DreamHack Valencia rematch, potentially, just to see how these teams have adapted to this fall split meta. Seen some very spicy things already so far, at least in the last set.
There's no doubt. I mean, even in the first set. In fact, I think we have some replays to recap if you missed the first 2 sets of the day. Set number 1 was Obey up against the Poppies, and Pretty Prime picked Raijin twice. Back to back.
It seems that they've definitely been preparing for this moment. They wanted to bring something new to the table. Raijin is one of these guys with a little bit of changes that we've done to him over the past couple patches. Has a lot of control in the early game for the laning phase, and that long-range artillery, you can never really deny that.
I've been saying it since the rework. If you have a mid-mage that clears the wave at level 2, chances are they're going to be pretty good competitively. And he can clear the wave by himself at level 2. Now, this Height of the Urchin in the mid lane stuff that we're starting to see, maybe. I'm a solid maybe on it. I'm not sure. How do you feel about it?
It's an interesting mix because normally you're only getting dove by either the physical jungler or the physical solo laner, right? So that magical protection is not necessarily helping you out all the time. So sometimes you might be better off either going Breastplate of Valor, Spectral Armor. These two are more cost effective for the gold spent, but that extra health comes in handy.
Absolutely. That's what I was about to say. 250 health for that, what, 2350? You're probably not going to go too wrong as long as you can get a couple stacks on that Height of the Urchin. Then in set number 2, it was Energy and Valence. And Raffer just decided he didn't really feel like playing Guardians today.
Sarkett was a great performance by him in game number 1, just being so elusive at times. Game number 2, playing the Hell, didn't have the same impact as he did in game number 1. But then Maniac also allowing himself to be playing that Artio.
I mean, we're going to be talking about the Artio and the Sarkett support, but Emilito got Scotty, and when that happens, Energy is probably going to win. Emma was playing Scotty, whatever everyone thought she was really bad the first time, and then she was really good, and then everyone thought she was really bad a second time, and now she's really good again. So Emil is, he's going to be comfortable on this character, and that was probably the biggest difference maker for me between game 1 and game 2. Emil on the Medusa, good, but not Scotty level.
I mean, you compare 2 different abilities between Petrify on Medusa and then the Permafrost that's up every like 15 seconds or so on the Scotty. It's just no questions. I'm taking the Scotty every single time. The mid to late game teamfight control from that Scotty Permafrost is just too valuable to give up. We saw some changes also from Valence Squad in that second game. Fails playing the Kamazots and Muzinkov onto Lobster was so well because of the fact that you don't necessarily always need a mid-mage, right? You can have a physical hunter that has mage-like abilities. For example, the Stinger does a lot of damage, also has 110% scaling, so as long as you can hit that consistently and then get it back, get that 80% cooldown reduction, you're basically a mid-mage.
Pretty much. I mean, as I was saying with Raijin, if you've got someone who can clear the wave at level 2, AMC does that same thing. That makes Raijin viable in a lot of ways with that early game clear. So Papa Lobster pulls out the B, and it ends up working out. Valence and Energy find the split. That's the first half of the day. Now let's move on to the second half, and let's start with the star-studded matchup in that 4th spot, the DreamHack Valencia finals rematch, Dignitas and Rival. Let's talk about Cuvo and Ice Ice Baby, because those are the 2 guys who really stepped up very highly during that DreamHack LAN. Cuvo is playing an absolutely unbelievable rate right now.
We all know that junglers are the key focus behind the focal talking point as well as the action in Smite, and Fred loves to play aggressive. Whenever he gets a chance, will whoop out that Hun Bats, blink into the action, make all these plays happen. It's very important for Ice Baby to make sure that he either makes his own plays before Fred or at least match the pace of the rotations and look for the counter gank.
You know that Cubo's going to really like that last highlight in particular because that was against Variety, his own teammate from the Energy Invitational land, and Variety missed a Ymir freeze, so he's going to hear something about that for sure. Ice Baby on the other side, whenever anyone talks about Rival, it's always, oh, Deathwalker plays Opwash and Ares in the solo lane, and that's
Gab.
true, and Gab, yeah, sure, he'll play whatever. I shouldn't have even named anything. He'll play the entire cast as far as what he'll play in that solo lane, but Ice Baby's really a big reason why Deathwalker's able to do that because of how much attention he pays to that solo lane.
It's very important whenever you have a solo laner that likes to be creative, such as Deathwalker, to kind of sit in that solo lane for a little bit, at least to allow that Guardian to get out of that slow laning phase transition. And then once Deathwalker rotates to these team fights, he's going to be such an impact. Because of his creative build, his creative god choice selections, it's very difficult for some of these teams to really pinpoint the strategy direction that Rival are going for.
Rival looking for some revenge against Dignitas in this one. Who do you have in that matchup?
I think it's going to go a split, honestly. We saw them go the distance in Valencia, and I don't expect anything different here in this 2-game set.
Well, next up, that we have to get through another set before we get to that one, and it's going to be Elevate against Burrito. Elevate making some changes, no longer Nulissa on that roster. How do you think they're going to fare without their mid laner?
I think that they're going to make these adjustments relatively cleanly because they brought her back before. You know, it's like a, not necessarily a love-hate relationship, but they've had time with her and without her. So these changes heading into the fall split, I think that they've come prepared now against Burrito, who is going to be one of the weaker teams expected to perform here.
That's what I was about to say. If you're going to be making a last-minute change like Elevate seems to have done here, having Burrito in your week 1 matchup is probably best case scenario. This is the team that was the AC during the summer split. They come back and requalify through relegations, but this gives you a week of good, you're playing against a good team, but you're not playing Dignitas or Energy or Obey or one of those powerhouses that you're probably going to lose even with your full strength roster.
This could be a great confidence booster. Now, if they win against Burrito 2-0, then they can go into the rest of the split feeling very confident. Or if they lose to Burrito, this could be just like maybe even the last nail in the coffin immediately for Elevate.
That's a good point. Got to watch out. And Burrito definitely seems to be on the up and up. I mean, as I mentioned, looked much better in relegations, at times looking better than even the Poppies during the relegations. And the Poppies looked pretty solid during their summer split debut. Who do you got, Toli? Elevate or Burrito?
I got to give it to Elevate 2-0 here.
All right, Elevate 2-0 is the prediction. Hopefully you voted on your season ticket because it's too late now. Let's go to the casters as they take you to set number 3.
Thanks so much, Aggro, and Tolly as well. Taco, they said it's going to be Elevate 2-0. It's more than likely it should be because Burrito, they only won a single game the entire of last split, and that was against the Pappies.
I think that most people would probably anticipate Elevate to pick up a clean 2-0 here, but I'm not counting out Burrito in the slightest, solely because of the fact that Elevate are still bringing in technically a new roster with Melissa no longer joining them in the mid lane role. That is going to leave them a little bit more susceptible, I think, to being shaken up as far as synergy is concerned.
Now, obviously, we've seen about the pickups of Elevate, what they want to pick up in week 2. Week 1, there's a couple of roster locks that are causing issues, so they're going to be running with a different person in the mid lane today. I believe it's FaraKrik is going to be the one that we're going to see in the mid. But into picks and bans we go. Burrito have the first option. Do we see an RTO ban?
I would have to say yes.
Okay.
And if she isn't banned, I would very much anticipate her to be picked, but more so than anything else, I'm expecting her to be banned, and there she goes, along with Odin. No real surprises here.
It really feels like whoever's first pick has to ban Odin, whoever's second pick has to ban RTO. I think we'll see that for at least this week. Obviously, there's more nerfs and things coming through for these gods as time goes on, so it'll mix up as per usual. Camazotz Skadi taken out too. Burrito with the first pick option. They're going to go with Terra.
Interestingly enough, this is the second time we've seen Camazotz being banned in the first 2 banning stage, and I mean that's not typically something you expect, just because Camazotz seems more like that individual target ban, and again I think that's the real mindset here. Leaving open Terra and Chronos, there is still also Ravana on the table if Elevate wanted to opt for that. He is a pretty prevalent pick right now, but instead it'll be the Medusa.
Okay, I mean Cucullin's also available. We've seen that banned a couple of times too. Everyone's saying though that Camazotz is the dominant force in the jungle in terms of assassins, whereas it's all the other warriors warriors like Ravens and such that we're seeing there instead.
And again, Raven being locked away for Burrito right now doesn't necessarily mean that he'll be going into that jungle role. Still a little bit of flexibility because Kokolin is still available, as well as some Wukong and a couple of other picks. Although, after Jing being locked away and Guan Yu for Elevate, I'm kind of expecting those other prevalent warriors to be banned away from Elevate.
Guan Yu?
Guan Yu.
Is he back?
I am not certain, but Elevate certainly have a strat to try and revisit some.
What is this day?
I don't know what year it is, personally.
I don't know. I'm so confused. I was like, I'm in season 1, 2, 3. No, this is season 4.
I've actually been seeing a decent bit of Guan Yu in ranked, which is probably the main reason why I'm not as surprised as what you might be. But
I mean, a competitive player. I mean, rank doesn't count to me.
It doesn't,
rank's
but it can
to
kind
me.
of hint towards what other players have been seeing from the pros.
Okay. Ares banned out by Burrito as well as the Sobek. Went to eliminate Dardez's god pull a little bit. He's more than likely going to be playing the Athena or the Guan Yu, because Guan Yu has been known to support quite a bit. Athena has been known to solo now and again, or even jungle.
And there's the Chaac from Burrito, really just trying to match pressure against not a whole lot of it. Guan Yu, he does have a little bit of shred with that Talo Assault, so there's that to keep in mind. But Chaac is kind of just he's the typical Rain Daddy bully in the solo lane.
The Rain Daddy bully. I kind of like that one. It's 3 tanks, though, for Burrito as well, if you noticed that. Obviously, with a Guardian and 2 warriors there. Very tanky lineup, relying a lot on Jing and Thoth to do most of the damage work in this stage of the game. But Elevate, they've gone for a bit of a difference hit. Nox as well to this roster as a Chronos and Chronos, Nox, and Medusa on the same team.
Elevate's draft almost, I hate to say it, but it feels like a Joust rank draft. Having that Medusa, Athena, and the Nox.
Solo?
They're looking primarily for that setup. The solo's got to be the Guan Yu.
But then, who's jungle?
Well, I guess I don't think they do a shout-outs to NA with the Guan Yu jungle, personally.
Support Nox. Okay. We've seen it before. It's
Dardez, and that doesn't surprise me either.
Get me out of EU already. It's only week 1, and I'm like, I don't even know what these guys are going to pick now. He's gone all over the place. Burrito with the same lineup they've had previously. And apologies, it was FaraKrik. It's on Burrito. My bad for that one. I got that one slightly wrong. And Mr. Stefan is going to be subbing in for Elevate here today. I do know they were looking at picking up Death Panther potentially in week 2, but roster locks mean that he's not going to be available here. Apologies for the miscommunication in the mid laners.
And again, for Cherryo, I just realized it is Cherryo jungle, so of course he's playing the Athena. I would not expect anything less. This is a guy who has pretty much built his name off of the more tanky gods in the jungle role.
So Guan Yu versus Chaac, how's that matchup go? Is it pretty much Chaac throws axes and Guan Yu just goes, ow, that hurt, and heals?
I would 100% expect the Chaac to dominate the lane pressure, and that's just what is expected. I would feel as though Chaac's heal, his self-heal is a little bit more viable and more valuable in general in comparison to Guan Yu's heal at the start of things, but as the team fights break out, No Numbers could find the better matchup.
Cherryo eats a lot of free poke from Dzoni there, but then Dzoni gets it returned onto him by Mr. Stefan on that Medusa, as well as that full minion wave too, so Elevate in the mid lane early on, going to get a bit more pressure than their opposition as everybody falls back towards the jungle for now. No Numbers and Sibi, well, both still level 1, neither of them leaving the lane just yet. Smart
choice by Burrito, I would say, to pair the Raven into the jungle with Thoth. Thoth has a really hard time clearing early on. His early game is abysmal. As OP as everybody wants to say that Thoth is, that level 1 through 3 just feels terrible.
It's rough, but once you get through those first few levels, it does get a little bit easier for you. You do get a bit of free penetration too because of your passive.
What I'm really keeping an eye out for is Cherryo with the taunts on the Athena. He's going to really need to be that interruption factor for FaraKrik trying to charge up that ultimate.
Definitely a lot of beads burners on the side of Elevate here. If you look down that whole squad, they've got every single one of them has the ability to force you to use the beads defensively, and then once the beads are down, it means the next person on the squad could technically go in and cause the same problem.
Elevate just don't want Burrito to launch any abilities the entire game. That's really what they seem to build their foundation on and what they might be able to make happen. This is a very strong team synergy builder right here.
Well, Burrito, last split, they need to start to put on the gas this split because, as we mentioned, Pro League's going down to 6 at the start of next year, which means that the bottom 2 teams from the SPL will be eliminated. And that's going to be trouble for Burrito, considering they were right at the bottom last time round.
Finding a split here for Burrito even would be massive.
That's true.
Just considering that it would put Elevate in the same position as them, and both of those teams would still be higher than the Poppies.
In the jungle, though, Cherryo going very deep to try and steal away back Harpies here. Only up against FaraKrik on that Thoth, though, so able to just rotate back towards the safety as Fusify on this left-hand side, looking to put some pressure down, uses one dash in the wall to put some poke on. Can't get the second dash off because of the silence from Dardez, and Kespainify is going to need a bit of poke too. And that's it for the time being. On that side is FaraKrik now at a mana, but does hit level 5. He won't have enough gold, I believe, to get that Book of Thoth completely. Will he go for the Sands of Time, which we see happen quite often?
One of the only dangers, I would say, for Elevate's draft is that they're kind of banking on all-inning somebody from the get-go. If they're unable to find the Knock Silence or the Athena taunt into big burst shut out, then they're probably going to end up losing the elongated team fights in comparison to Burrito's draft that can continuously go in. They've got the Terra sustain, they've got Jing, who's an excellent hunter for dealing with these magical ADCs because of her crit possibilities.
I'm just looking at the decision-making from Elevate here this game. They're just kind of holding back a little bit for now. They've got this nice little wombo combo in the mid lane of Athena and Medusa, obviously taunt into Petrify, so very, very strong, especially if the beads are down. And meanwhile, it's just about farming up for the early stages because you've got a Chronos, you've got a Medusa, get them a couple of items, and then they can start swinging by about 8-9 minute mark.
You don't want to be too passive, though, against the Thoth. You want to try and put the pressure early on, really put him behind as soon as possible. That way you don't have to worry about that final judgment whacking you for your entire health bar.
I like what Burrito's trying to do here, though. Use the Chaac, use the Ravana early on in this game to pressure onto the speed buff, but Cherryo's here and a taunt onto Sibi puts him in a lot of trouble. Petrify was used there too, and Sibi, he can't got time to jump to the axe, he's already dead. Stefan picking up the first kill of this game, and Medusa with a nice quick first blood.
And the Terra ultimate as well being expended from Fusify just means that Burrito aren't going to have that escape route possibility. Elevate, I wouldn't be too surprised to see them look for an invade onto Sibi's blue buff, which is exactly where Cherryo no numbers are already headed. Unfortunately, that'll be on cooldown for just a little bit longer, but considering there's still a full way to push out and before they can look to try and re-rotate over there.
So the only difference in gold right now is just that first blood going over to Mr. Stefan. What do we expect to see on Medusa here? Because obviously builds are always interested on the hunters right now. We've seen Devour's Gauntlets, Transcendence been talked about. Is Medusa one way or the other?
Since Mr. Stefan is playing this Medusa in the mid lane role, I would prefer to see him on the Transcendence standard ability-based hunter build. Only because of the fact that Medusa would probably just benefit a little bit more having that mana sustain in the mid lane.
But without having the bombers, I was thinking maybe Devs just for the extra sustain of getting poked down too much.
There's that possibility, but he'd probably get just a little bit more out of having that early power spike as opposed to waiting for the 60 stacks from the Devos. And like 60 is right around where the power spike really kicks off.
But goes in, looking for the taunt, but a nice silence from Sibi in response will stop any potential turnaround of damage, because Chaac's someone that you could try and pick off here if you do manage to get the taunt into the full combo, as he doesn't have beads.
That's one of those ultimates where it kind of just happens and you don't really have much to say about it afterwards. That's sort of what Chaac is known for, is being that silencing bot.
And FaraKrik in the mid lane there on that Thoth has picked up the Book of the Thoth now, so he gets a nice little chunk of damage early on from this, plus he can get a few extra stacks, which don't mean too much as it stands for the moment, but now working towards those boots. And Mr. Stefan, as you suggested, going for that Transcendence.
Yeah, like I was saying, 60 stacks is really where you can feel a definite power spike from the Devos, but having the full 70 is really where it starts to tick away as far as damage is concerned. And having received the recent buff as well, being a little bit cheaper, definitely a strong
Cherryo
option.
could be in trouble here, dashes into trouble, and so Fusify does, but eventually Cherryo just walks away from it. Dzoni and Fusify didn't really link up there looking for more pressure. I guess they didn't expect Cherryo to be as tanky as he was.
Plus, Cherryo also had an Aegis available, which came up pretty importantly for him as far as preventing a lot of that damage falling onto him.
Yeah, that did help him out quite a bit there, but now that Aegis being down means that Cherryo, I don't think he's going to slow down his pace whatsoever, but it does mean that Burrito could look for the speed buff once more. They did this last time round and dropped a kill for her onto Sibi, but now they're potentially 4 strong on this side, but so are Elevate.
Cherryo does still have that Defender of Olympus available, if anything else, and Dardez trying to get that silence out, but FaraKrik charging that Thoth ultimate in the background, opts to not let it go. No numbers making the rotation
Sibi.
over on Guan Yu.
Sibi took a lot of damage there. Has to pop the shell early on. No numbers getting relatively low there. Good top from Cherryo into a silence. Not enough damage, though, to pick up a kill just yet. This is a bit of a clown fiesta, I will say, around the speed buff, which is dancing around to stay alive. It will go to Elevate, and it's Burrito that bit off too much, but luckily Dzoni still had his ultimate available to jump over the wall back to safety.
And everybody from Burrito just trying to get away from Cherryo with this speed buff. Now it might be their own that's getting contested by Elevate, recognizing just how poked out everybody is from Burrito. Fusify doesn't even want to stick around.
No, Fusify's going to go back, but Sibi goes in. Dardez cleans up Dzoni already. Sibi's already used his dash, so no real escape available for him here. And now with no numbers coming in too, they should be able to clean up a second kill in this engagement, and Elevate are off to the races.
That's just one of those instances where you've got to accept that you can't invade the enemy team's buff and back off. That's all they needed to do was fall back.
At least clean your own jungle first, or accept that you're going to lose yours in response. That's true. So 3 kills and 2 of them onto Mr. Stefan. The substitute mid laner here for Elevate early on. Def Panther, if he's actually watching at home, I'd be like, well, I might lose my position here. I know they signed me up, but who knows?
Mr. Stefan is certainly a strong player, but Kespainify in a lot of trouble right now from Jermain and Dardez, forced out of those purification beads and forced out of almost his entire health bar.
Really shows the strength of Nox in these engagements, though. Being able to silence such a large area of the map, and as well as if you can connect that route, it is a cripple on top of that, which shuts down so much opportunity for Burrito to really do anything against it.
And Dardez building those CDR boots is only going to help him. Cooldown is so imperative on a Nox support. You just want to spam that silence, really. If anything else, you've got Cherryo to follow you up with the Athena taunt, so it's not as important for him to miss the route as much as it is for him to just drop that silence in the area, because so much of Burrito's draft relies almost entirely around them being able to get their abilities off.
And you can see how quickly this wave is being cleared here. Jermain on the Chronos, not really made an impact so far, but known for Chronos plays throughout his career too. Not really been too involved in the game just yet, but respectfully so, he's a level ahead of Kespainify here, who is on playing Jing, which is something you don't expect to see. Jing being slightly behind at the same stage.
Jing can catch up through the back harpies,
sure,
but he hasn't had the same opportunities as Jermain, who's kind of just been free farming on this dual lane side, collecting as much as possible by himself. And Cherryo, however, a little bit of trouble, able to get out. That's the beauty of Athena. Yeah,
Dzoni kind of telegraphed that a little bit, because the pick should have been onto Mr. Stefan that they were looking for, but Stefan recognized that Dzoni was playing way too far forward for his own liking, and in a 3v2 scenario, they just backed away at the right time. And Cherryo being the focus in the end isn't doom and gloom, because he is a Guardian after all. He's going to be able to absorb a little bit more damage than a squishy Medusa.
And plus, all that health that he was missing, by the way, he's got Boom Bust.
So he'll be able to sustain that back up. But Fusify on this right-hand side ate way more damage than he bargained for. Petrify was used by Mr. Stefan there as well to help secure that kill. Cherryo and Dardez both on the board. Sibi versus no numbers, but Sibi's turning this one around a little bit.
And it's already been the Defender of Olympus. Huge Final Judgment coming out, but not enough to drop Cherryo. And instead, he's going to engage, force the Thoth out of the fight, while Sibi's just being chased down by no numbers and Dardez.
Looking for the in-hands is Dardez now. He's going to have to tank this up. Misses the route, but still, Dzoni will fall down. However, a lot of trouble for no numbers there, but he will survive for the time being. Another kill the way of Elevate. This is getting out of hand. It's 6-0 at 10 minutes in.
There's just so much momentum already for Elevate, and a lot of this is just riding off the bat of Burrito trying to pressure where they couldn't.
The pressure onto the speed buff, that's what it comes back to. That one bit of pressure on the right-hand side. They lost Sibi the first time. Second time they go to it, they lose more. And now Elevate have just taken control because of the invades.
I'm just not sure why they were so insistent. Even with the Chaac and a Ravana, sure, you've got a little bit of early game advantage, but it's not going to be enough when there's 4 members strong from Elevate looking to defend their buffs.
It's not all doom and gloom just yet, though. The gold lead is around 3,000 as it stands in favor of Elevate, but 1 Gold Fury, 1 Portal Demon later can even things up a little bit more here. Cherryo, a little bit of Grisky too far forward on his own, but the rest of his team more focused on the minions and making sure they get that experience that's so vital.
Cherryo's ultimate will be available pretty soon, and what I'm also really waiting for is Dardez launching himself inside of Cherryo and Cherryo ulting on top of an ally to really just have the ultimate wombo combo of this Nox and Athena.
And you can see how far along Dardez is now, playing support 2 levels over Fusify, but more importantly, ahead of Dzoni on Burrito in the jungle. The jungler be behind the support is always doom and gloom.
And Dardez, again, looking to just put the hurting onto Fusify. Cherryo going to get the credit for the kill, but now Gold Fury, all eyes on it by Elevate.
I really like what Mr. Stefan's doing with these Petrify ultimates, though. Sometimes you see Medusa's looking for the one-shot wonder of stunning the whole team, the Ataraxia special, you know? Instead of just going for the actual damage that you can hold on. No Numbers going all the way in for FaraKrik, and he'll actually manage to burn the beads early on. No Numbers still has support from Dardez around the back too, and Sibi can't do anything when you're silent. Sunshine 8, and oh, this is terrible.
This is clean by Elevate.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Already. I mean, yeah, granted, it's absolutely awful if you're Burrito or even a fan for them, but all around, Elevate have just not let down in the slightest when it comes to the pressure, when it comes to the map control.
It's funny, when you look at Elevate's roster, the one name that always stands out to me, first of all, barring Cherryo, who's been around for a while, is Jermain. And he's done nothing this game. He's not had to. And then take into account that you look at the left-hand side and he's top of experience per minute by almost 100 at this stage, means that when they do get to a late stage, if they do, Chronos is going to destroy everyone too.
Jermain is living the dream right now as an ADC. He hasn't had any pressure in his lane. FaraKrik, on the other hand,
different story.
Not in the slightest. Fusify unable to assist his mid laner there due to that taunt coming out from Cherryo, and I can't expect this mid lane tower to remain standing for much longer.
Well, only Dzoni and Fusify to defend, so it's a bit of a tricky situation. Obviously, the monolith is down too, so there's no double dash available. So pressure onto mid could happen, and look at the wraparound. No Numbers and Stefan looking at potentially sneaking around the back here, but leaving Dardez and Cherryo to take the tier 1 tower. It's not going to go down this time round. Instead, they wanted the speed buff.
Dzoni, I'm not certain why he opted
Lord.
to go in there. He was perfectly fine looking it back on that downside.
Oh,
that was a nice ult.
Yeah, but that's a better one from the Petrify. Again, coming around the corner, and the clippity clop of those hooves from No Numbers. Sibi, once again, he laughs. He's not really having fun, I'll tell you that much, as the tier 1 tower gets lower and lower.
There's just absolutely no way that Johnny's going to be able to defend that, and walking directly up to Cherryo just leaves him wide open for the taunt.
Sibi's dead, or is he? Yes, he will. Finally, Fusify roots them all in place, but Cherryo's so tanky, he can hold it up, and FaraKrik, just not enough damage to bring down any members of Elevate.
That's just the downside of a Thoth that gets so far behind so early on. Numbers is level 14, and sure, FaraKrik's not too far behind, level 12, but still, his itemization is just not there as far as putting a hurting onto anybody from Elevate.
Well, one Gold Fury down so far, 2.5 minutes till the next one spawns, and Elevate will be looking to gather that for themselves too and continue this lead so far. How did Burrito get back into this, Taco, realistically? Because your front line is so far behind. When you look at Sibi, 5 deaths. Dzoni, 3 deaths. How do you get back in this?
Realistically, okay, hypothetically, they need to deicide Elevate or at least get 3 to 4 man picks and then capitalize off farming out the jungle and the waves as much as possible to come back in. And it probably has to happen 6 or 7 times.
Well, 1 beads isn't going to be enough here. Dardez is keeping Fusify busy on the left-hand side there. Kespainify came to turn up, and now Cherryo too. Because Fusify forced to use the sprint defensively to get him away from danger as Kespainify traps in a bit of trouble, but no real follow-up available there after Dardez's route. But there's pressure on this left-hand side now. 3 members grouped, and one of them is a Medusa.
Yeah, and just getting back to what I was saying, realistically, I don't see them coming back into this game. This is one of those matches where you focus on improving for the next.
Fire and forget, basically. There's not much else you can really do with this one. The question is like, can they try and turn something around? Maybe a Gold Fury steal or 2. FaraKrik gets to the late game, but 15 minutes in, this is not looking good.
This gold lead is just too substantial so early on. Anytime you're down 8k gold, before the 20-minute mark even, that is just absolutely brutal to try and come back from. And unfortunately for Burrito, this is one of the downsides of competitive play. It is just so punishing if you fall behind in the slightest, and even what seems like the simplest mistake that you can normally bounce back from, that's sometimes all that a team needs, especially Elevate. Although they aren't necessarily considered one of the teams that's been a top performer in EU, they have been able to secure wins off of some of those top teams pretty consistently at that. They're just known for splitting all the time. And so whenever they're really able to come together, this is just working out flawlessly for them.
Nice overhead kick from Dzoni there just to avoid the taunt coming in from Cherryo. Now Dardez being surrounded on, but it is a support who dashes away back to safety, and the collapse from Jermain and No Numbers turns up too. Sibi's a little bit too late to the party here as the minions now coming. Cherryo's going to get a taunt to Dzoni, who engages in the spot, trying to put the pressure back on, and the Terra ultimate comes through too. Big ult from the backside from FaraKrik onto Mr. Stefan, who falls back to safety, and now Fusify on the front side trying to disengage.
But No Numbers is ready to go back in already, launching off his Guan Yu, but getting off just in time to get away.
Dzoni's dead. Jermain gets the kill on one, and I mentioned that a little bit earlier on, that when he turns up and gets these levels, he is level 17 here. He will start to swing a little bit stronger, especially against these weakened warriors.
No Numbers just trying to do what he can as far as providing sustain to his team, and it's working out. Cherryo with a blink in, a taunt onto Sibi, who's now being forced out by No Numbers from the fight. Fusify trying to make it happen in the mid lane, but Cherryo's just taking this tower, no problem.
Kespainify turned up nicely there and put some damage onto No Numbers, but not enough, and now he's stunned in place too. Does use the Aegis though to avoid the damage as Dardez picks up Fusify finally, and Sibi on the front side is looking for the lazy back as he won't be able to find Cherryo, who fell back to baseline. Cherryo has his ultimate and comes straight back in, and it's FaraKrik in a world of hurt. Will use the beads to absorb the taunt from Cherryo. Kespainify trying to return damage as Sibi is isolated and surrounded and picked up to make it number 14. But good news, Burrito fans, you got a kill.
Dzoni is calling worth every single time on that one. Dardez, of course, is the first one to fall on the side of Elevate, and unfortunately that's just a support lifestyle.
Dzoni forced to use his ult defensively here as Elevate, with only 4 members strong, feeling very comfortable after that engagement, go towards the Portal Demon. Nobody here from Burrito to defend, but they could look for the Gold Fury here.
It's just one of those circumstances where I think more than anything else, Elevate are just trying to see how much they can get away with.
Sure.
T2 Tower is still dealing a little bit too much damage for them to try and handle. It does appear as though Burrito will be able to pick up this Gold Fury, which, although small, it's making a huge difference for them.
Well, they get the Gold Fury, but because of the sound of that, Elevate going to use the Portal Demon to transfer themselves to the Fire Giant very quickly, and no one on Burrito knows what's going on, but they'll hear the sound of the Fire Giant's death, and that means they know the nail in the coffin has pretty much already arrived.
The main reason why Burrito commits to that Gold Fury is because after finding out that Portal Demon was going to be secured, you can almost always anticipate that Fire Giant is coming up next. And when you're this far behind, Burrito's best option is to just try and find the little bits of global gold that they can for their team to get those items online that might potentially help them hold off on the Phoenixes, if not the T2 Towers.
Talking about T2 Towers, the right-hand side, starting to be sieged up by Elevate now with a Chronos as well as a Medusa. It won't take too long, especially with them having that Fire Giant buff. Cherryo just trying to force people to use disengages if possible. He's going to get a better free poke here. 1 crit from Kespainify for 226, but it's not going to be enough to slow down Elevate. Keep an eye on the jungle though. Dardez and Stefan setting things up if they can to swing around behind and isolate people as Elevate swing towards mid lane.
And Mr. Stefan, he's just all objective oriented until it comes to Cherryo with the taunts. Dzoni able to get out of danger there, but he can't avoid the stun from Jermain unless he uses his ultimate.
Fusify double dashes, trying to slow down Elevate and the minions too. But Elevate will continue marching on as Sibi is forced in with the ultimate there to try and buy a small window. The Terra ultimate is popped from Fusify on top of that. And the poke is pretty good from Kespainify, but Elevate aren't really panicked. They have a Guan Yu of sustain, and now all the beads are down. There could be more trouble.
Elevator just turning and burning right now onto Burrito. Fusify first victim of this onslaught of FaraKrik with the huge final judgment onto Cherryo.
But that's only on Cherryo. It's only a tank that's down, but it is a frontliner, which slows down Elevate's aggression a little bit more. Elevate just want to keep bringing them down further into this mid lane and then keep re-aggressing, knowing they've got no numbers, just consistently healing them, topping themselves back up.
Losing Cherryo will at least mean that Burrito has a slight moment to breathe. They won't have to worry about this Athena taunt spam coming out, and then Dardez with the immediate follow-up. That has really just been the most brutal part of this draft for me.
You know it's a bad day when your support has to go for beads too. You know you're going to get focused down where 4 members of your team have beads. Surprised we didn't see Sibi pick it up, but he's got the shell and the sprint to try and buy himself enough time, but it's not worked out for him so far as he's currently 0-6-2.
there's just not much room either for a Chaac to try and avoid any of this. And you can't even really justify building a Magi's because that would just get forced so instantly that it's pretty much not even worth the buy. If anything, maybe another Spirit Robe or two, even potentially the Mantle of Discords. The problem is those items require gold, and that's something that Burrito has not gotten a chance to really farm up at all this game.
What a crazy day one it's been, and it's not even over yet. This is only set 3 of the day, game 1 of set 3 too. We've still got another game between these two following this one, which is looking good for Elevate right now. See how game 2 looks. And then you've got Dignitas versus Rival after this.
I wonder what NA is thinking right now looking at this.
I have no clue. I can't wait to read Twitter later and just see what NA is saying, like, yep, this is what we're running too. And I'm like, what? You're running all this? AMC mids, Hell supports, Nox supports? RTO's getting through picks and bans.
I will say, I don't think that NA is going to ever let RTO through picks and bans.
At least for now. All the tier 2 towers are now down. Elevate now starting to siege up these Phoenixes, waiting for minions, and in doing so, you can see No Numbers just drifted towards that mid lane there to clear out the minions there and put added pressure onto Burrito, try and split the forces. The weakened forces, you can tell by just levels alone, not just deaths. And Cherryo back to the front line, looking for taunts, finds Sibi. Sibi's already dead before he can even get away. Good night, sweet prince, you will be missed. Nice ult again from FaraKrik. That's the highlight of the game for me from Burrito, is FaraKrik's ultimates have been pretty strong. Dzoni weakened down again. He's going to have to fall back as Cherryo blinks in with a taunt. We'll get beads out of FaraKrik too. Fusify on the front side, trying to slow down the damage dealers getting in here. But one by one, beads are burnt, and nobody on Elevate is really looking scared at the chance of falling down.
I mean, Cherryo using that Defender of Olympus to his advantage yet again, coming back full health, as if health was an issue considering they've got the Guan Yu sustain anyway. Dzoni trying to go in and make it happen. Dardez already taken out Kespainify, and it looks like the rest of his team is about to follow suit, as his mid Phoenix is being aggressed on Jermain, picking up Dzoni immediately, and now he picks up the Phoenix as well.
2 Phoenixes down, and Elevate continue marching on, looking for game 1. And they might be able to pick up FaraKrik as well, which they will do so. The chain CCs have just been too much for Burrito to handle in this game whatsoever. Back to the drawing board for the Burrito boys. Elevate, well, they said it in the name, they're rising up.
And already, after 23 minutes, it might hit the 24-minute mark. It looks as though Elevate want to make sure everybody's dead before going further. Jermain popped the ultimate in the fountain.
Best play Jermain made all game, I'm not going to lie. Second best play after the Aegis too, but eventually the Titan will fall 20-2 in less than 24 minutes.
Let's be honest here. Jermain never had to use his ultimate pretty much that entire game until jumping into the enemy team's fountain.
That was a 4v5 that game, it felt like. I don't think Jermain needs to exist to be fair. No offense, it's just like that's how it was.
There's just nothing that he really had to do. That, like I was saying, it was just the dream game for any ADC main. Your team's picking up all the global farm in the world for you and just running rampant. For me, that was entirely Dardez and Cherryo just going ham.
Well, let's see what happens then with how this goes on, because Dardez on that Nox is very interesting. Do you reckon we'll see that again from him this game?
I'm not entirely certain. It's not usually ideal for those kind of more niche picks to resurfaced twice.
Sure.
But I am a little surprised at how refreshing it was to see this Nox support coming back into competitive play. I think that it was utilized like exceptionally well by Dardez. You could tell it's something that they've definitely been practicing.
It's kind of a tricky one to deal with too, because it is a Nox, so you do want to try and take her out so she can't keep silencing and rooting. But at the same time, it's a support Nox, which means if you're investing in the support too much, you could be wasting your time, especially knowing that she's got that shadow step there to reposition herself back to safety if required.
I do feel as though this worked out a little bit better than what it might have normally, simply because of the fact that Burrito kind of forfeited any chance of a lead early on, and that was kind of the standpoint for their draft to really look to take off. When you have a Chaac, you're not looking for the late game. You're not looking for any game to go past, ideally 25 minutes. Well, and unfortunately it didn't, but it wasn't in their favor.
It didn't go past 25 minutes, but that's game 1. We'll see what happens with game 2 now, because when we wait for the picks and bans to come up here between these two, they're taking a few moments for themselves. What's the plan from Burrito here? Look for tanks again, or do we try and mix things up a little bit more? Go back to sort of maybe an assassin jungle?
I don't think that they're... I mean, granted, a lot of people are going to be like, oh, they picked Chaac, no wonder they lost. But realistically, I don't think that the draft was my primary issue. My issue with Burrito was where they chose to try and be aggressive. They were just looking for too much too soon.
Okay.
That's really what it felt like to me. They just kept trying to force the issue, as Tolly would love to say, and sometimes you just can't.
But sometimes you want to do that. I mean, it's Chaac and Raven. You should be
But
looking
it's
to be
four
aggressive.
members defending multiple times, and
That's
you
true.
know that they're ready to rotate. You know that their composition is sick as far as the, wombo combo, and I just wouldn't want to keep trying to contest into that. Look for the aggression in other sections of the map. You don't have to necessarily force that one aspect of it.
Well, let's go into